Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into what is honestly one of the absolute most chilling campfire stories in all of American history, the Bell Witch. Whether you're a hardcore skeptic or a total believer, we're jumping straight into the historical text to unpack a mystery that has been haunting America for over 200 years. So let's just dim the lights, get comfortable, and jump right into it. Okay, so picture this. It's 1817, we're out in rural Tennessee, and we meet a guy named John Bell. John was a farmer just living a completely normal, quiet, peaceful life in a farmhouse with his family. I mean, everything was incredibly mundane. There wasn't some dark, spooky local folklore about his land or some cursed family history. Nothing like that. It was literally just an ordinary American farming family going about their daily business. But all of that absolute normality, well, it was about to end on one very fateful evening.
And this brings us to the inciting incident of the whole legend. According to the historical sources, John was out in his field one evening when he spotted an animal, but it was definitely not a normal animal. He claimed he saw a creature with the body of a dog but the head of a rabbit. It's just a completely bizarre, unsettling visual, right? So, reacting purely out of fear, or maybe just instinct, John actually raised his gun and fired at the creature. But the bullet didn't hit flesh and bone. Instead, the thing simply vanished into thin air. Poof. Gone. And from that exact night forward, the Bell family's life would literally never be the same.
Now, the escalation from here is incredibly rapid. We go from a weird, isolated sighting in a field straight to a full-blown physical home invasion by an unseen force. Almost immediately, the family started experiencing these intense physical phenomena every single night. We're talking about loud, aggressive tapping noises just echoing through the walls of the farmhouse. They'd feel the vibrations and hear the heavy thud of footsteps sprinting across the roof. And inside, doors began violently opening and slamming shut completely on their own. Their safe sanctuary was just utterly shattered.
Naturally, while all this was happening, word started to spread. Slowly, the entire village basically became bystanders, just listening to all these wild rumors about what was going down at the Bell house. But inside the house itself, there was a very specific target. John's daughter, Betsy Bell, became the primary victim of whatever this entity was. And guys, this wasn't just spooky bumps in the night for her. It was physical torture. While she was just trying to sleep, this invisible force would violently pull her hair and literally slap her across the face. And yet, when the family frantically searched the room, absolutely no one was there.
As if invisible physical attacks weren't terrifying enough, the haunting then took a massive vocal turn. One night, cutting straight through the darkness of the farmhouse, they heard the distinct voice of a woman. And this voice declared, "I am Kate, and I will never leave this house." Now, this is a massive shift in the story. It wasn't just some faceless poltergeist anymore. It actually gave itself a name. So why Kate? Well, here's where the true origins of Kate come into play. Historical sources point to a real-life neighbor of the Bells, a woman named Kate Batts. John Bell actually had a bitter, lingering land and financial dispute with Batts, and she was well known locally for being a bit eccentric and, frankly, vindictive. So for the locals, this entity wasn't some random ghost. They believed it was the literal manifestation of a very real, very bitter human grudge. And that voice, calling itself Kate, only grew louder and more aggressive with every passing night.
And this entity wasn't just a mindless bundle of angry energy. Kate was highly intelligent and possessed knowledge she logically just shouldn't have had. The sources note that this spirit could flawlessly recite long verses from the Bible, but far more terrifying for the locals, Kate would loudly reveal the darkest, most deeply hidden secrets of the people visiting the house. We're talking secrets that only they could possibly know. It's really this specific detail that transformed the Bell Witch from just a local nuisance into this widespread, terrifying phenomenon.
Because of this, frankly, uncanny knowledge, people started traveling from far and wide just to witness this haunted house for themselves. The legend grew so massive that it eventually attracted the attention of a very prominent historical figure, the future president of the United States, Andrew Jackson. Jackson decided he was going to travel down to the Bell property and investigate this whole situation for himself. So this sets up the ultimate test of the legend, right? You have one of the most powerful, pragmatic, no-nonsense military men of his era, walking right into the center of a supernatural storm.
But wouldn't you know it, the entity was ready for him. The source material describes this truly eerie standoff. As Andrew Jackson's carriage approached the Bell house, it suddenly jolted to a complete stop. The horses were straining, just pulling with all their might, but the carriage was inexplicably paralyzed. It wouldn't budge a single inch. It was literally as if they had hit an invisible brick wall. The tension was palpable. And then, echoing out from the darkness, that same unseen female voice spoke up, saying, "General Jackson, you may enter." And guys, the very second those words were spoken, the carriage instantly began moving forward on its own.
I mean, even a hardened military general was fundamentally shaken by what he experienced next. That night, inside the Bell House, Jackson and his crew were subjected to absolute chaos. They witnessed objects just flying through the air, they heard blood-curdling screams, and they listened to this bizarre, disembodied laughter just echoing through the halls. It was so intense that by the time morning finally broke, Andrew Jackson reportedly delivered this completely legendary quote. He said, "I would rather fight an entire army than spend another night with the Bell Witch." Let's be real, when a future US president taps out, you know the situation is absolutely terrifying.
But as time passed, the haunting escalated from terrifying parlor tricks and torments into something undeniably fatal. The patriarch, John Bell, was suddenly struck down by a severe, completely unexplained illness. As he lay bedridden, a small, mysterious black bottle inexplicably appeared right next to his bed out of nowhere. Shortly after it appeared, the spirit actually vocalized a chilling confession regarding that exact bottle, which ultimately culminated in the tragic death of John Bell. Let's dig into the story behind that mysterious bottle. So no one in the household recognized this small black bottle. They didn't know what was inside it, and they had absolutely no idea who put it there. But, well, they didn't have to wonder for long. The voice of the spirit rang out, proudly taking credit, stating, "I gave him his final medicine." And shortly after this really sinister declaration, John Bell passed away. So the entity didn't just haunt the family. According to the legend, it actively claimed responsibility for murdering the man in the house. Now, you would think that with John's passing, the nightmare would finally end, right? But the source text details one final, deeply unsettling act. On the day of John Bell's funeral, as all the mourners were gathered together, the attendees heard a woman laughing, just loudly and myonically all around the property. After making her presence known at the funeral, the voice finally began to fade away. But she left the family with a chilling promise, a vow that one day she would return. And honestly, that promise brings us right up to the present day. Because this isn't just a story locked away in a history book from the 1800s. Even today, in that specific area of Tennessee, the legend is very much alive. Locals still report hearing strange noises emanating from the darkness near the Bell Witch Cave. People continue to claim they've seen a mysterious white shadow drifting through the area. And most notably, there is a massive local superstition about mocking the entity. So if you ever find yourself visiting rural Tennessee and you're tempted to openly mock the legend, you might want to reconsider. Those who do are said to inevitably experience some really bizarre, unexplained consequences themselves. So I want to leave you with a question to ponder. We've mapped out the source material, the flying objects, that completely bizarre creature, the intelligent voice of Kate Batts, the paralyzed carriage, and of course, that fatal black bottle. But at the end of the day, what do you think? Was the Bell Witch a real tangible entity that terrorized a Tennessee farming family? Or is this simply the ultimate example of folklore, America's most brilliantly constructed and terrifying legend? The evidence from the historical text is all right there, but the final verdict is entirely up to you.